What's up, guys? And I want to start off this video by saying I hope you all are staying safe during this time period. It's crazy out there in the world, and I'm here to just kind of get your mind off things a little bit. Let's talk about some games. You've read the title. Today we're looking at Final Fantasy VIII for the Sony PlayStation. Now this game, it took me a little bit of a while to beat, and this game does a lot of things that are very courageous, very interesting, and a lot of things that just ticked me off, that made me want to, and I did at multiple times, put this game down thinking I was never going to beat it, only for it to bother me so much that I had to go back and start playing it again. So let's talk about Final Fantasy VIII. But without further ado, I'm going to throw some gameplay footage up there that I recorded while doing this. It may not match up to what I'm saying at the time, because the original review I did, I don't really like the prospect I was given off and the information I was given off of the game, because I didn't really play through it at the time before I reviewed it. So this is going to be brand new. So let's get into that. Now, in Final Fantasy VIII, you play as Squall and his league of different members and friends that are in this unit called Seeds. Now, Seeds is basically a group of child soldiers, which in itself sounds very much illegal, and in almost all aspects of it, it is. Now, you're trying to stop this evil sorceress from taking over the world in a lot of very akin to, classical JRPGs. It's a very interesting concept. Now, certain things in this game kind of make it feel different than any other Final Fantasy I've played. Now, one of the big things here is your summons are now called GS, which are Guardian Forces, that you can kind of spam throughout your battles because they can be used unlimited amount of time, in essence, because they have their own HP gauge. And as long as that HP doesn't disintegrate, you can continue to battle with them. Now, if their HP does disintegrate, you do have the option to revive them outside of battle. But because of that, when you're summoning them, there is like a time period between when you summon them and before you can use them. When you're summoning them, you're kind of protected by their hit points versus your own, which makes them very easy to spam in that sense, as long as you have, a strong enough Guardian Force. But that's where it also becomes very interesting in combat, because within Final Fantasy VIII, the combat is their traditional, turn-based JRPG style combat that Final Fantasy is known for. However, leveling doesn't really matter in this game. So what I say, and what I mean when I say that, is in Final Fantasy VIII, there's a junction system. The junction system in itself are basically you fine-tuning your individual abilities within the character based on the Guardian Force that you've equipped to that character. And different Guardian Forces allow you to hone different skills. So the enemies also in this game, they level up with you. Essentially, if you're level 100, the enemies you're facing are going to be level 100s. It's not going to seem that way, because if you're junctioned up correctly, or in a way where, it'll work to your benefit, it's going to kind of play off like traditional leveling. But if you don't have any junctions tied to you, you're going to make the battles a lot harder for yourself. I learned this the hard way, because I needed to go at certain points of the game, later in the game, where I had just been spamming my GFs the whole time. You learn that doesn't really work for all boss situations. And I had to learn while I was on disc 4 of 4, really how to junction up in order to handle these battles in a way that they didn't become overkill against me. And I wish this game went into better explanation of how important the junctioning system actually was, because they go over it. I'm not going to take that away from them. But I guess from playing different JRPGs, maybe it's my own fault that a lot of times gimmicks seem like gimmicks like that, where in this game it's actually a very vital part of the combat system. And if you're not junctioned properly, this game is going to hand you your ass, essentially. So, you have a wide variety of different characters with all different personalities that just kind of make this game very interesting. In certain parts of the game, It's dark, but in certain parts it's very carefree. It's not as grungy as Final Fantasy VII was, and it's not as magical as Final Fantasy IX feels. 8 in itself has always been viewed as almost like the black horse of that generation of games, and it's probably because it also was the one that wasn't remade because Square Enix had apparently lost the original source code for many, many years. There is an HD remake out there now for modern consoles, the PS4, the Xbox One, Steam, Nintendo Switch, but I wanted to go back and I wanted to play the original. Now, this game, for what it's worth, it does have a lot of charm to it, and I can't take that away from it. But it is difficult. A lot of Final Fantasy games, compared to other JRPGs of the time, do come off a little bit more overly difficult, and I think it's because of how ambitious Square Enix is with their flagship series. They're willing to try different things and willing to kind of push the envelope, because at the end of the day, Final Fantasy is going to be a series that people are going to buy because of the name value and the quality associated with the games. Not all games have been, smash hits, but they try to do something different, and I give that to them. So, as the Seeds, you're trying to stop this evil empress, and you get to travel through time at different points, go to different lands, different islands. Basically, the map system in this game is a continent grid to an extent, and a lot of different parts of the games you can't get to until you have a different, like a ship or like a boat to get to the different lands. Now, in this game too, you're going to want to make sure you're very leveled up throughout the game and very well stocked with items, because I found myself needing them quite often. Magic in this game also isn't skills you learn. Magic in this game is treated as items, and if you have like 6 of Thendara, you can only use it 6 times before you have to find more of that item. And you also junction the magic to your characters in that sense, which is how they level up, at least attribute-wise. In itself, the junction system, once I learned it, I liked it. But I think for a PlayStation 1 game, that system is overly complicated to what I thought I was going to get myself into. And that works in its favor and in its detriment, because I think a regular Final Fantasy player, a regular JRPG player, is going to go in here and not really understand it. But then once you do understand it, a lot of things just make sense. I think the biggest issue is the complexity of it. All in all, Final Fantasy VIII, I believe, is a game that definitely can push the limits of what Square was able to do with it, and definitely makes for a game that I think is worth the play. Over the course of 4 discs, I got to the 4th disc at like 30 hours, and I ended up finishing it at about 45, because I was just that not junctioned properly. On the 4th disc, I don't want to spoil anything, but you are going to want to make sure you do a lot of your side quests on the 3rd disc before it ends, because you can't really go into towns or anything on the 4th disc. You can traverse the lands, but the towns and stuff are cut off to you. And, I get it in that sense. But, all in all, Final Fantasy VIII for the Sony PlayStation, I think, is a game you should pick up. And with all this time right now where we're supposed to be staying inside to stay healthy and stay away from other people from social distancing, this game, if you're into JRPGs, can definitely take your mind off of things and definitely take you to a different world for a little while. Because I think what we all really want to do right now is just kind of disappear from what's going on and have something that makes us just focused on something else and something to be happy about. And Final Fantasy VIII, I think it's going to frustrate you, but I think you'll be entertained. It's a very good story, a very good tale, and if you still have your PlayStation, or if you want to download it digitally, you have those options. With the 7 remake coming out imminently, I think if you haven't played 8, you should check this one out if you just want to get that little bit of that Final Fantasy spirit, guys. As always, thanks for watching. That's my little bit of a review for this. Everyone stay healthy, be safe, game on, check up on your family, your friends. Don't be social outcasts, even though that's kind of cool sometimes. But just, keep in contact with everyone during these trying times. That's what's really going to matter, is we need to be unified and come out of this together. And I think Final Fantasy VIII will help you learn teamwork in that sense, because a lot of these characters are very different. The system's very different than what you're used to, which is right now, everything is very different than what we're used to. And I think Final Fantasy VIII will allow you to just think of life and games in a different way right now, guys. I'm sorry I'm looking like a hobo. I swear I'm probably going to end up looking like a hobo by the time this is all over. But thank you for watching the video, guys. As always, like, share, subscribe. Check out all my other videos. Check out Final Fantasy VIII. Game on. I'll catch you guys later.